Rob, so great to have you here, man.
Great to be here. I'm gonna put us live on our page too.
And I'm gonna introduce Rachel here. How you doing, Rachel?
Hi, everybody. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to everybody on Facebook. It's been a few weeks, so we're pleased to be back. I will be following the chat as usual, taking your questions for our guests as we go along. So if you have anything you want to talk about while we are talking, pop it in the chat and we'll get to as much of it as possible. All right, let's go.
All right, this is an amazing topic, obviously. But I want to back up a step because I think there's a bigger issue that we need to talk about. And that is when I hear people say this story needs to be told. I just want to smack them in the face because no story needs to be told unless it's one that people want to watch. Sure. And you and I had this conversation at one time. So let's talk about before you even start your project, and then we'll move into once you make a project.
Yeah.
Help me out with this. It's called marketability.
Marketability, yeah. I mean, it really goes back to, a lot of the filmmakers that I admire and that I think are interesting are the ones that really build that ground up approach. And a lot of what I ran into, especially sort of in my film school years and immediately thereafter, were a lot of people that wanted to make movies for very specific audiences, but it was all the same audience. And so I think I just kind of started to look around and kind of say, hey, there's so many audiences out here. There's so many niche audiences. There's so many people hungry for content. There's so many TV shows that have kind of lapsed that people want to watch more episodes of, that you want to go back to those worlds. Or you want to see a whole new world that might not be what the average film school student wants to do. And so basically that was where it started for me, was let's do something that I know that there's somebody out there that wants to see this, and let's make it marketable at the same time.
Well, let's talk about topic. I mean, it's you picked a great topic. You picked a topic that lends itself, it's kind of sports, Rudy, kind of feel, but yet, I don't want people to take this in the wrong way, but it has some evangelical appeal.
Right.
And that faith-based content, boy, you can't beat that. You have 100 million person audience in America. Now, I know you didn't make a faith-based film.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean that it doesn't appeal to that market.
Well, and that's you're exactly right, though. It's you're not stepping on any toes here. With this movie, when we filmed it, I mean, even when it came to should we get this shot, should we go get this footage, and in the writing of it too, and everything leading up to it, it was all about how many marketable assets can we give ourselves? How many audiences can we open ourselves up to? And so it was the ones that you mentioned. It was the faith films branch. It's the football films branch, and that's an untapped niche for sure. I mean, there's iTunes does their football film sale, and there's 15. In all time, it's like.
I mean, I love that. I love that you're thinking like this, because people need to know this is the film business, and even Steven Spielberg doesn't get a free pass to make a movie about something. When somebody's putting up money, somebody's saying, okay, wait a minute, who's our audience? Who's going to watch this? How am I going to get my money back? These are the key questions. I want to show a clip from your movie here. You have a small trailer, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about how do you make money?
Great.
Let's see this.
Well, what do you say? Big time football coach in my ball. Heard about that kid. Heard it was your fault.
The weakest link can break us.
Tragedy this week as local football player dies suddenly on the practice field.
He's gone because you pushed him too hard.
I hadn't seen anybody puke yet. Let's go.
A player dies from physical stress because of your punishment sprints.
You think it was my fault?
I think that I have never seen you like this, okay?
Hey!
You should have heard the folks.
He's guilty as sin. I don't even know what to do. Everything in my power, I'm trying to fix things, and I can't do it. I feel terrible, too. Oh, my God. There's got to be something that we can do to help those kids. This game, it is not near as big is what you have already overcome. You are part of a team, and that's going to stay with you forever. I promise you that. I'm here to tell you right now, I love each and every one of you.
Okay, wow. Okay, first off, that's impressive, man. That looks like a major motion picture from Hollywood. And I want to do one thing before we start talking about Four Walling and everything you did with this.
Sure.
We're going to have this conversation about how you make money with your film. Mm-hmm. But I think people need to know that that is talent, what you did there. And you can't just take any movie.
Your words, not mine.
Yeah, my words. Okay. You can't just, it always still boils down to, how do I get my film distributed? It still has to be a really good, has to be marketable, has to be good. And then we should broach the topic of talent.
Of course.
And wow, those actors were amazing. And the other thing that was great about that trailer is you did what I love, is that every single scene had conflict in it, which makes me say, oh God, I want to know what's going to happen next.
Sure.
I love that. All right, let's talk about talent, and then we're going to immediately move into how you bypassed and went for a film deal.
Speaking of talent, and everything in that trailer, it's all a testament to all the people that I worked with and the people that were on the project from the very beginning, from Brian, our cinematographer, to Carter, our editor, to Logan, our composer, to the actors, to everyone behind the camera at the same time. It was all about let's put the best team together, and that was almost once I'd done that, I could kind of just let it all run, and that was beautiful, and our producers and so on and so forth.
All right, let's talk about name talent. You and I had a conversation about this in the past. Obviously, when you're going for your deal, you know what I'm going to be saying here.
Yeah.
So, what is the number one thing that people are looking for?
So it's interesting, who is people,
because people who pay for these things.
Okay, so you're talking about from an investment strategy, an investment standpoint, and I think that I think that that's kind of the first question that people ask. Is it's like, I've got the script, I've got the crew, where do I get the funding? Where do I get the money? And I think that part of what made this work for us and what made The Last Whistle work was we really built the movie as if it was its own business, as if it was its own startup. We had the business plan, we had the projections, we had everything that would speak to an investor more so than maybe a filmmaker or an actor or somebody like that. And I think a lot of the pitch decks I see, a lot of the people that talk about they're having trouble raising financing, are coming at it from, here's the vision. And when you bring that to anyone, especially people outside of the industry who are probably a little more likely to invest in a smaller film than people in the industry, that's the key, is make it accessible from a business standpoint rather than from a visual feeling standpoint.
Beautiful. Love what you're saying there. That is exactly what you want to say. But when you go to an investor, these are the kinds of things you're saying. And a lot of people tell me this all the time. Oh, we got so-and-so from this TV show. He loves it. He wants to be in it. Okay, that's important. We're going to be hitting this market. That's important. You've kind of hit all of these and obviously I'm not telling people, you have to have name talent. Although you may be able to.
It's an interesting question, and I think it comes down to so many things. I think that the script is important. I think that the genre is very important.
Yes.
If you were trying to make your money back on a movie, and you've got action or you've got horror, then those are the genres that typically can succeed without a name. They can succeed with one, very, very much so, but don't necessarily need one. If you're talking about drama, you really have to have a name at that point.
Yeah.
And that was our trouble with this was, okay, if this is, if drama is sort of the main genre here, we got to amp up the football. We got to make sure that maybe if we're not going to go all in for a name that would blow our whole budget, then let's get people who are still great actors, recognizable actors. I feel like Brad is a name, Les is a name. They're just not names in the sense of it, taking it to AFM, taking it to a market.
It's a C grade. It's horrible to say this, but there are C grade, B grade, and A grade talent.
And I won't say where any of our guys fall in, because I think that when we filmed is different from now and different from where we're going. I think some of them may or may not be A or B or C.
Well, they're not A. I mean, A would be like a major star to me. B would be somebody who's either a fallen star or somebody who's like, on the cusp.
Sure.
C grade actors to me are people that have done lots of projects. But anyways, the point is this is all part of your marketing package, your deck as you call it, that you go to sell. Okay, now we're going to move on. Let's move on. You've made this movie, and it's fantastic. It's got all the elements you need. Now your options are A, you could go to a film festival, and B, you can do what you did.
Sure.
What did you do?
We put distribution before our festival strategy, and I think that our title here is why I said no to film festivals. It's a little misleading, but I think that what we said no to was leading with festivals, and I think that what really inspired me to do this was this idea that distributors no longer make deals based on what festival you're in. There's some of that. There's an element of that for sure, where you're more likely to get.
Yeah, they're using
X,
that
Y,
for
and Z.
marketing material. But I mean, the point is, most people go to the film festival to find a distributor.
Right.
You
and you don't have to do that.
Okay,
there you
go.
That was the epiphany, and that was the moment where it was like, these distributors are out there, and we engaged with one or two of our, and I would say many, but we tried to engage with many of ours before we even shot a frame.
Wow. Okay, let's start with. You're done. Well, no. Let's start with how you got your distributor. How did you get them?
So obviously you have to, the same way that you're applying to film festivals. You're sending your screener out. You're making sure it's password protected and that sort of thing. And basically just making sure that we had sort of a very early trailer, making sure that we had, even if it wasn't color corrected, we had a version of the film that looked good and had basic sound and that sort of thing.
Was that the trailer that you sent out?
No, it wasn't. So that trailer.
If I saw that, I'd be like, hell, I'm in now.
Yeah,
I would have put money into that.
Sure. But we had something similar to that, and it's funny you say put money into it, because I shot a trailer before we made the movie for potential exec producers, for potential investors.
That's brilliant.
That's also a great thing to do. It's
now,
a lot of
legwork. How'd you do it, man? How'd you get all the actors together to pull that off?
It was
production, but you need a budget to do that.
Right, you need a budget to do that. I mean, it's very much cart before the horse. It's very much a catch-22. And I think the hardest thing is on a first project. And I feel like that's probably a lot of the viewership out there, is that folks who are ready to start on the first project. And the hard thing when you get to a first project, and this goes back to your question more about the script and the actors, is you can have a great script, you can have the budget even. But if you go to an actor, their agent may be too afraid to let an untested, someone that doesn't have a resume, have their actor for even a day.
Right.
Because they know that if their actor finishes on your set and they call up this agent who this is their only job, is to really make sure that these things are legit and not gonna get them yelled at, basically. And so
well, it boils back to you're only as good as your latest film, and they don't want their latest film to be with a newbie.
Exactly. And the catch-22 is the same way for the newbie, where it's you don't have a latest film.
Right.
Even if you have a great short film, even if you have like a slew of commercials, there's still sort of this very even folks who have been shooting commercials for decades,
exactly.
and even people who maybe have shot a feature 15, 20 years ago for studio, had that same challenge where it's like, okay, it's like the agents and the reps are going to take that combination of the most money, the most sense that things are going to work out. So the hard part from anyone who's starting out is you might not be able to go and get someone that gives your project sales value.
Yeah.
And when you do that, when you don't have that, that's where you have to get creative, and that's where you have to make sure that your budget matches what you can get as a return,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to make sure that the script is making up for, the strength of the script can make up for that lack of.
I like that you say that, because like when we were in the corporate world, we used to say whenever they would give us a budget that wasn't really what we wanted, that's when you have to be more creative. to make the project even better.
Yeah.
And Rachel could probably speak to this, but when you look at how they advertise, which this is all very important to the sale, so this is part of our conversation. Sometimes they'll say from the award-winning filmmaker so-and-so, or they'll say from an award-winning director so-and-so, or they'll say from an award-winning actress. In other words, they're using every little bit of tools they can get. You know, if you got Ennio Morricone doing your score, you use that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you're selling something. You use everything you can.
We did a lot of that. I think the titles are great. Some of that will come from the reps. Some of that will come from the reps saying you have to say that in the trailer that my client is Academy Award winner, Emmy Award winner, the acclaimed. And I think who was on Mad Max Fury Road. The title I kept seeing was from Visionary, and I'm blanking on the name of the director for it, but I know his work, and he did Mad Max, and then he went and did, he didn't do the Penguins of Madagascar, but he did something like that. You know, he did Babe, the pig movie, you know, and so it's like they
use what you have.
Blasting.
Let's get back on
Visionary,
topic here.
And
so
it's marketing.
We talked about marketing. We talked about what you need the elements to really have a movie so that you can go to a distributor.
Right.
Now let's talk about your path. So you interview distributors. Let's go from there.
So and
or not distributors. Did you? Let me back up. Did you use a producer's rep?
We did. So part of the value of the producer's rep for us was they also acted. This was Circus Road was our producer's rep, and Glenn acted as both the producer's rep and our lawyer when it came time to negotiate.
So let people know that he's basically kind of now your agent.
More or less, yeah.
Yes.
And the great thing that was there too was I wanted to make sure that we had, because I knew that so many of these distribution deals will, you know, essentially cut out the filmmakers. The middlemen can take everything and run with it at that point. And I wanted somebody who had seen lots of deals, who for a small percentage would be able to ensure that we were going to see return and not get caught up in the contract.
So wait a minute. So I thought that you were paying him as a work for hire, and he didn't get a piece of the action.
It's a little bit of both.
Okay, fine.
It's it works different for every producer's rep. Some of them will just take a large percentage. Some of them will just take up front. And we negotiated with Glenn to do a little bit of both.
Now you budgeted for this in your budget.
No, we actually didn't. What we did was our budget was done well enough, and even with as little as we knew, we still knew what to budget for lots of post-production. And so we actually had a surplus going into post-production.
Okay, so you were lucky. People, budget for.
Let's lucky. No. We knew what we were doing going into production and budgeted for it.
Okay, I didn't mean to say it that way, but most people go over budget.
Just so that people know, there's no luck to it. I mean, you can get lucky with the location, you can get lucky with a deal, and we did have a lot of luck come our way. And that really did help us with that surplus. But at the end of the day, we budgeted for things. We knew to budget for E&O insurance. We knew to budget for sound design. We knew to budget for a lot of this stuff. And so we didn't have a big surplus going into post-production. But any dollar over net is huge when it comes to these indie films that usually run out of money going into post-production.
Okay, I've done several thousand projects.
Can I jump in real quick here, guys?
Hold on one sec. In my life, and I have never had the word surplus ever used. You are the first person in history that has had a surplus. You use everything. What's up, Rachel?
Got some questions. I don't want to put you on the spot, Rob, but we've got a question here to see if you can give us maybe a general breakdown of costs and if you're comfortable giving us an overall production budget.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah, so we were working with a budget that was a little over $100,000, and I would say that we probably used 40% on production, maybe up to 60% on production. We used 20 to 30% on post, and then we used 10 to 15% on marketing, on post, essentially.
Yeah.
And things like that.
Amazing. I love that you had it that way. I didn't think you were going to have it that defined. That's incredible.
That's the key to it. That's everything. Now, and again, that goes back to when you're raising money too. If you can show that you know what things cost and that you're not going to have an October surprise, essentially, that it just increases the trust in a potential investor. So thank you for asking, Rachel.
Okay. Getting back, you picked a producer's rep. Let's move from that point forward.
Sure. And so Glenn took out the screener, the trailer, some of our art to all his list of contacts at all the companies. And I liked it too because we got a chance to send it to Netflix very early on. And one of the things I've been watching for a long time was that Netflix, basically what the streamers love to have things that are adjacent. So if a streamer doesn't have the Bond library, they will go and buy Man from U.N.C.L.E. so that whenever someone searches James Bond, they get, well, we didn't want to pay billions for that, but here's Man from U.N.C.L.E. Here's this adjacent movie. And so I watched Netflix go through a whole bidding war, and they lost Friday Night Lights. And I know that they're having trouble when it comes to not the coasts, when it comes to everything but flyover country, when it comes to subscribers. They got to keep those subscribers when Disney is about to barge in and snatch that. And so the whole idea was, listen, I think they might want this because they lost Friday Night Lights. They are really pushing Last Chance U. They're pushing their football stuff, but they don't have sort of narrative. They've got all documentary for the most part.
That's brilliant, man. I wouldn't have even have thought of that.
So at least we got the no from them from the producers rep early on, and then that I maybe that planted the seed for them to come back and license it from the distributor. And so
we're going to get to that.
Sure.
But this idea of adjacent content, boy, that is brilliant. See, that goes back to our concept that don't tell that story that you need to tell that's just never been told. Tell one that is adjacent to one that somebody might not be able to buy. But I mean, the genre you pick.
And if there's a story that you love that needs to be told, there's a genre for it. Just don't be afraid of the genre. I mean, the genre is such a help, and it really, I mean, it's you look at any of the best really cool projects that have come out in the past few years, and it's because people are blending genres. They're using a genre to tell that story in a certain point.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So,
but again, you have a football movie, and that's about hope and dreams, and there's tons of conflict. And wow, that is pretty topical. I didn't think about the whole, people getting hurt, which is a super topical, concept. Mm-hmm. You got a lot of really good things that make that movie work for this day and age. Okay.
As many as we could.
Okay. So now you got your producers.
Can I hop in?
Yep.
We've got a question here. Actually, I think it's quite timely because, Rob, you and I talked about this early on, that things happen very quickly. Derek is wondering how long after you were done with post-production did all this deal making happen?
The two are happening at the same time because post-production, depending on the intensity of your workflow, hopefully you're going from the editing and the picture lock to the sound design and the color at the same time. And so basically, as soon as we had picture lock or just before it, that was when we started to get it out there during the month or two that we were doing sound design, that we were working on marketable assets, that we were working on trailer and things like that. So my answer to Derek would be, you don't have to wait until the film's done. As long as you've covered your quality control situations, as long as that picture lock really is a good picture lock. Mm-hmm. The distributors have seen unfinished content before, and they see it all the time. Yeah. And it's not the best way to do it, but I really felt that we were on an accelerated timetable with how slow movies can take. And it's almost that you do it fast or it takes you years. And either way, you've got a good movie, but there's no movie where someone says, oh, it took exactly the amount of time I thought it would.
Well, but when did you bring, I'm going to call it your sales team, which is your producer's rep. When did he get signed on? Halfway through the movie? Beginning of the movie? End of the movie?
So, end of the movie, yeah. As we neared...
In post?
No, it was after our first festival, actually.
Okay. So you did go to a festival.
We did go to a festival, and so that's kind of my description where I'm saying that distribution was the horse that led the cart, but we're not film festival adverse. And I think that it's important to talk about the detriment that festivals can have to a film because there's so much of it out there, but there is a gem of value in the film festival circuit. And I'd be happy to go into that too. And we had some wonderful festivals that we played with and some not wonderful ones at the same time.
Well, wait, but you getting your producer's rep and you being in festivals were two separate paths?
Correct.
You didn't meet this guy by going to the festivals.
Right.
I know we've talked about this idea of, it seems like a lot of independent filmmakers think that if they can have 17 laurel leaves on their poster, that somehow that makes it more sellable. What's your opinion on that?
Anytime I see a poster with a lot of laurels on it, my brain goes to, this is going to be boring. And so I know that's a very uncultured, swine before pearls approach to it, but that's the way I grew up. And I saw so many people in LA especially who really, really were focusing on the laurels, really, really focusing on the festivals at the same time that festivals were inflating to a ridiculous level.
Yeah, I mean, people need to know that this film festival is a business now. It's not like, 25 years ago when there were 10 of them.
Yeah.
And, if you've got that many laurel leaves, why do you not have a distribution deal? There is
Sure,
a
or
Dubuque,
even if you do
Iowa
have
Film
a
Festival.
distribution deal, you don't need to tell me that somebody else told you your film was good for me to watch it. I'm going to watch the trailer. And if it played at Sundance, that informs. If it played at South by, that informs, because it's like those are almost genre pieces at this point.
Yeah.
If they show South by, it's like, oh, okay, quirky comedy or insightful documentary. If they show Sundance, it's like, okay, promising indie budget. Indie budget being $10 million, but promising indie budget, great performance. It's like the festivals now are part of that marketing plan for distribution. And so there are very few films now that lead with their festival run and find a distribution deal that they like by going through the festival circuit. Mm-hmm. And that's what that's the gospel I'm trying to preach is festivals are not your one and only. Your one and only is your movie. And it's what's marketable in your movie. And then use the festivals as marketing. Use the festivals to premiere your film. I mean, if you premiere at a festival, you don't have to rent the Egyptian Theater for $50,000 and pay for insurance.
We got to get to the meat here. So we're getting back on topic here.
Sure.
So you have your producer's rep. Let's start from that point. So you said, what's our plan? What are we going to do?
Yep, and he said, get me a number of DVDs and Blu-rays, get me the assets, and so he sent everybody. We got some nibbles from some places, we got no's from other places, some delayed responses from even more places. He had a list of 20 to 30, which was an awesome list, and a lot of the people that we didn't have the contacts for. We even went to AFM at the same time, and we're trying to sort of use the AFM lists, but a lot of the distributors there, the ones that were established, were very hard to reach, and the ones that weren't were dangerous to work with.
Get me closer to where we're at now, though.
So we receive offers from 3 to 5 distribution companies at that point, and we look through their catalogs, we see what they like. At the same time, a lot of the contacts we had reached out to before the film came back to us and said, hey, did you ever finish that movie? And so we were working, we said, okay, yeah, we did. We're working with Circus Road so they went through him as well. And so we just got down to, we set up calls at that point with each of the companies. They kind of pitched us the plan. And we ended up with Vertical Entertainment, and we chose them for a number of reasons. But it really was a great scenario. And the path to our theatrical release actually came after the deal had happened.
Okay, let's talk about this concept of four-walling, and
Sure.
a lot of people don't know what that is.
And so the distribution model that a lot of films between $500,000 and $3 million work off is called a day-and-date release. And it's this idea that if you have a film that's not necessarily ready for a true theatrical release, where it's in upwards of 500 to 1,000 screens, the big ones play 4,000 to 6,000. But if you're not a movie that's ready to put forth all that money, because no one really makes money off, even the big earners don't make money off of theatrical these days.
Yeah, the goal was always just to recoup your production budget.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so the idea is that if you now are a small movie, what you'll do is they'll play you in anywhere from 10 to 50 theaters. And on the same day or the same week that they put you in those theaters, they will release the film on the video-on-demand platforms. You'll begin your VOD window. And what that does is it puts you in the In Theaters Now folder on the site. And at the same time, it gives you a little more repute when it comes to international sales, when it comes to streaming deals, when it makes the project just that more valuable.
Let's talk about this four-walling, though. Four-walling
Exactly,
is where
yeah.
you actually pay. So you have to pay to be in the movie theaters.
And it's a reason that many small theaters are still in business for the most part. Or not for the most part, but it's
I want to clarify what
Yes.
this is. You're actually buying the movie theater.
correct.
And then you get the revenue of the ticket
Yes.
sales.
And so instead of a 50-50 split, which is traditionally somewhere between 40-60 and 50-50, is the way that most distributors make returns on theaters.
Right.
But when it comes to a day and date, the theaters are aware that you aren't putting this on the internet for a very similar price to what is per ticket in the theater. So they know that you're not spending money to send people to the theater to buy concessions and to make their money. And so if they give you an auditorium, they could be taking money away from someone who would come and see the Avengers at the same time frame. And so
but they're giving you shitty times.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they're not charging through the roof for you to four-wall. But the idea that four-walling is, you imagine the four walls of the theater and you are buying every seat in the auditorium.
Right.
And in LA, they'll charge you per seat. You could be paying thousands of dollars per screening. Outside of LA, and if you go in the Riverside section of LA, it's a little less, and it's much less. And so what that does is it becomes a bit of a loss leader in the sense that the distributor is showing enough confidence in the film to do a day-and-date release, and as a result, the film gets a lot more visibility on the VOD platforms and can anywhere from double to tenfold your return as a result.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting concept. People use this concept, four-walling, to be eligible for an Academy Award.
Correct.
The rule book says, like, if you're doing a documentary, that you have to be like in 3 major markets, like New York, Chicago, and LA, and then some other markets for how many consecutive days?
So the Academy Awards are a little different than the basic day and date. For the Academy Awards, they want to see that you have 3 showtimes a day. I think it's still LA County. It doesn't have to be inside the city of LA, but city of LA does apply for like an LA Times review for the different reviews. But I would also say that the reviews aren't necessarily worth four-walling. It really is all about that placement, which I thought was kind of BS in the beginning, but it's actually the placement is a big deal, and we've seen that as we've seen it compared to other films that didn't get the day-and-date release and how they fared. But it is 3 showtimes per day, and one of your showtimes has to be during prime time.
Yeah, right.
So that's where the four-walling can get expensive, is if you say, all right, this is an Academy Awards contender. Let's say it's
a documentary is a good example, because you're not making a feature that's Academy Award material as an independent filmmaker.
And if you're going to do that during awards season, there are all these studios that already want their films in that same slot, and so that's where the theaters are totally in control, and they can say, here's the price, take it or leave it. Whereas with our four-walling, it's a little less intense, and the theaters realize it's what's keeping them in business too.
Right.
And so they're not going to.
Well, because they get to rent out their shit slots.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's important, and I the reason I wanted to talk about this is because it's a massive advertising tool.
It is. And it is if you know how to use it. And I think
it allows, and everybody's so gung-ho about being in a damn movie theater. I personally could care less.
Sure.
I'd rather have millions of people see it on the web than 15 in a movie theater. But
well, what's funny is we just announced Netflix yesterday. We'll be on Netflix in a week. And as our streaming window, now that our VOD window has ended after 90 to 120 days.
I want to talk about that.
Well, yeah.
Okay,
but what's funny is, to your point, we had some excitement about the theater, but especially from the coastal audience, they were like, "Oh my God, you're in theaters." But everyone from in the city of Fort Worth, where we made it, was like, "Oh my God, you're in Netflix!" And it's I don't think you understand. Like, it is way harder to do theaters than Netflix, but people are more excited about Netflix, and it's kind of the sign of the times.
Actually, no, because to me, okay, let's talk about Netflix is a different type of deal than Amazon or anyone else.
Sure.
Lots of those deals are a pay-per-view pay-per-minutes type of scenario. Netflix is a contract, and I want you to talk about that.
Sure.
Where there are time limits of your contract, and they pay for your movie. So it's a little different than going and throwing your movie up on Amazon.
It is.
And it's a premier deal.
The ability to sort of throw your movie up on Amazon has really cheapened that distribution model for a lot of the people that know the difference.
Yes, you're in
which
Netflix. That's
stinks.
A big deal, man. That's like being in a major motion picture release for the VOD market. But let's talk about your Netflix deal. We don't have to talk about specific monies, and I want to talk about what you're allowed to do. So people might not realize that there's many different types of rights that you have. So like you still have your foreign rights?
We do, and
in conjunction with the same time period as your Netflix rights.
That's correct.
Let's talk about your Netflix deal.
So the deal that we have covers English-speaking territories. So that does take some of our international rights. We're talking Australia, we're talking the UK. But my opinion with a football movie is, I'm not sure that we're going to see anything internationally, because the way that the deals are set up, the international is segmented from the domestic, especially if you do a worldwide deal, which is how we proceed.
Football's a hot topic, man.
It is.
American football is so popular all over the globe.
It is, but if you say like the distributors don't get that in the same way that a major studio would bury a film like Proud Mary, because they say, oh, black films don't play internationally, and it's like, yes, they do. Like I don't know where you're getting this, and they go, we're not going to put the money into it because it's too much for risk. It's like we don't know enough about it. And because they work off of the star system, they work off of actor X means return Y, and the benefit of that is that you just go get actor X if you can, but the drawback is that it's hard. They're not going to go and do some other type of marketing play. They're not going to go say, oh, we have a football movie, it has actor Y in it. And the sales agents go, well, we want actor. Where's actor X?
Yeah.
And so it's hard because, yes, I agree with you that football is big. Football is global. And I think that we're going to have some success in that sense. But a lot of it, too, is that the international deals work a lot different than the domestic deals, and you can never see a penny from international, even though they sell these territories.
Yes.
So I'd much rather to have a Netflix deal that's in our domestic pocket that never goes, the international side doesn't see any of it, because I don't want to pay off those expenses.
A couple questions. It used to be that major motion pictures tried to recoup their production budget from the movie theater tickets.
Right.
Then small films for a while they were trying to recoup their money from foreign sale market.
Right.
But what I want to talk about is your Netflix scenario, and furthermore, like I have my buddy that lives in Australia, their Netflix is different than our Netflix. Mm-hmm. So like when your Netflix deal ends, can you get another Netflix deal for, you said you're in all English speaking countries.
Correct.
So he's good. Okay. So
yeah. Go check it out, mate.
That's good. Okay, but let's talk about, so you've got your Netflix deal. And the other thing that you need to explain to people is your producer's rep. So you have your agent, and now you have your distribution house, and everyone is getting a piece of this action.
Right.
So let's talk about the various different deals you have. So you got, give us a range of what Netflix is and how long your term is.
So a Netflix deal can go anywhere from $30,000 to upwards of $150,000, depending on if they take it outright, it can be past $250,000, $300,000, because they're just taking the whole movie, slapping their in on it, and it's.
Is it saying a Netflix original?
Right. So a lot of the Netflix originals they can pick up afterward and just say, oh, yep, that fits, or they'll finance them, they won't touch them, they'll bring them back and say, okay, good. Netflix
Are they going to say a Netflix original on you?
No, they won't.
Okay.
Because it didn't launch as a Netflix original.
Oh, right.
Because it's got to be on the system. So if you're not a Netflix original,
the film festival thing is what killed that.
No, you can still play at a film festival and end up being a Netflix, but that's not really the way it works. It's usually it's all done in the before you even shoot any of it. But there's so I've got more to learn about the Netflix originals to be honest. But that is what I do know.
I mean, they're taking all kinds of content that's been made in Europe and they're calling it Netflix originals.
They are.
My God, that mermaid show that's one of the most popular things in the world, this Mako Mermaids, and that's all made in Australia. And boy, here people are like, they never heard of it because it's made in Australia. Yeah. It's a full-blown Netflix original here.
Sure.
So
this is a window deal, and the window deals are less because they lose it at a certain point. The rights expire, and so we ended up in the middle of that range, which we were very happy with. And so the way but you're talking about, everyone sort of takes a cut, and that's the hard part about the industry right now, is that there are so many middlemen, and there are producers rep, not a middleman so much. He's really our work for hire advisor. In terms of when they work, as soon as our producer's rep finalized the deal with the distributor, he was pretty much done, and then we started working with the distributor. So the distributor's also our agent in a sense too, in the sense that they're trying to exploit our rights, and we need to make sure that they continue to do so even after they've recouped their expenses.
Just to be clear, they really are your agent. Your producer's rep is sort of your attorney that's kind of looking after your back. But
right.
So now your distributor, are they dealing with every possible sale of that movie, from foreign sales to
Because it's a worldwide deal, yes.
Okay.
A lot, you'll have a choice in distribution to decide between a domestic deal and a worldwide deal. And the advice I've heard from a lot of filmmakers is, no, don't give them all of it, because they're just gonna, you need to like insure yourself and make sure you've got different, if one person tries to screw you, you've still got international, so on and so forth. What I've heard when it comes to international sales, and again, international's hard on a football movie too. So we weren't fooling ourselves thinking that we were going to make tons internationally, because this is a movie made for a domestic audience, and we're okay with that. And we'll take whatever we can internationally, but knowing how the sales agents work and knowing how much they make back before you see a penny, it was something that I would rather keep in-house with the emails we're already sending and checking up on, than have to feel like we're fielding two different deals.
Let's talk about this though. So how much did you give away to, I don't want to say give away, it's a bad term, they're your sales agent.
I'll tell you that.
And I want to talk about the expenses nature, because that's where a lot of people get killed.
So the standard for a sales agent, for a producer, actually they're different. The standard for a producer's rep is anywhere from 0 to 10%, and anywhere from $0 to $10,000 up front. And so we negotiated that deal. We didn't pay, we didn't do exorbitant numbers in either of them. So if a producer's rep is coming to you asking for 10% and $1, you don't give them $1. If the producer's rep comes to you and asks for 0% and $10,000, neither of those deals are very good. It's usually lower. Anyway, everything with the producer's rep kicks in after we get the money from the distributor. So that is he's almost a member of our investor pool at that point. And what he's there to do for a small percentage is to ensure that we see the rest of it. And that's what I really wanted him there for. So when it comes to the distributor deal, which is really the main chunk of it, they will take a percentage off the top.
About how much?
It'll be anywhere from 20 to 35%. And again, we kind of fall in the middle of that.
Let's talk about expenses.
So then they will deduct expenses if they're going to do a day and date. If they're going to do a four-wall, that can cost anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000. If they're going to cut you a trailer, that can be anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000. If they're going to do a poster for you, $10,000 to $20,000. And so,
but you can do all those things yourself.
You can,
and they're probably thrilled if you do it, right?
They are. Although they will commonly have final say on the art and the trailer. And so if it's not where they want it, or if they kind of forget about you until it's time to deliver and they don't like what you have, that was kind of an issue that we ran into, is we kept sending them trailers and got no feedback until the last second. They said, we outsourced to finish it. Oh. And it's kind of like, well, why didn't you let us know about this 3 months ago so that we, you know, and it's just like you do everything you can, and there's still people that aren't going to do their jobs.
You think they're making some money off that? Probably $10,000 to $30,000 to make that trailer.
No, I think it comes down more to accounting. It can be the accounting wizardry is what you have to work out for. So that's where you put a cap. You put a cap on what they can spend, and that's almost part of the plan. Is you say, hey, okay, so here's what we've made. Here's the maximum that you can take out of it after you've taken your cut. Yeah. So here's the minimum that we'll make. But I'm confident that they, based on the fact that we delivered them an almost completed poster, an almost completed trailer, and the four-wall wasn't done for an Academy Award.
Right. Small four-wall.
That's where we would bring that attorney back in if for some reason they said, you hit your cap, and it's like I want to see the expenses. I want an audit at that point.
I think that one thing needs to be said, and I actually, my wife used to edit trailers all the time for different films.
Oh, it's crazy.
That is an art form.
It is.
That is the one thing, everybody in this industry thinks, I can edit, I can do this, I can shoot, I can do that. Don't be so damn sure that you know how to create a trailer, because that trailer is the one thing that gets people to see your movie.
Yep.
So
and the poster too. The poster and the trailer are everything. And honestly,
might not be a bad idea to let somebody who knows what they're doing do that from a business perspective.
Yeah.
Not from, oh my God, this is how I want my movie to be portrayed.
But I've seen distributors cut some terrible trailers.
Yeah.
So it's not that, the people that know how to cut trailers are paid very well to cut trailers.
Oh yeah. That's why it's 10 to 30 grand.
No, when I worked at a studio, it was way more than that. The studio, it's and so it's just like like even the trailers that will expense you 10 to 30 grand, that I've seen, I like ours a lot, and I'm thrilled with ours. And what we did with ours was we really delivered them everything we could, And then they said, okay, we want to add in some titles, we want to change the music, and so we're going to spend to do that. But they kept 85% of our original trailer that we delivered to them.
Okay, how long is your contract with Netflix?
So it runs, I believe, 1.5 years, which is a shorter deal when it comes to a Netflix contract. Netflix contracts can range from, I think it's a year to 99 years, to forever. Most of them land at about 2 to 5 years.
But this is actually better because at the end of your Netflix deal, your agent can go and now sell this in a million different other ways.
That's the idea, and it's called AVOD, advertising video on demand, is a new bustling source of profit, especially with companies like Walmart with Vudu. Having a major AVOD. We did very well on Vudu, because that's our core audience, are the Walmart goers, and that's how we got the Walmart DVD deal, was because they saw it and they said, okay, this is something that will speak to our audiences.
Absolutely,
as well.
man. You have a middle America rural type of.
Right. So we're not making any huge statements about anything. We're not out here to win festival awards. We're out here to just make something entertaining. And it does say things, and our film does have a message to it at the end of the day. And it's not something that I would shy away from. It's something I'm excited about.
That's great. Now your AVOD.
But you're right. It is a short deal. And I like that because it does allow us to keep exploiting it afterward. The trouble is, and something that I think that a lot of people don't think about with Netflix is very easy to pirate. Netflix is very easy to, once it goes to these other territories, the sales agents don't really want to touch it. So if we play Netflix Australia, Australia's not going to pick up the rights to the movie, even if Netflix expires, because it's kind of already, like the well is already dry at that point.
Yeah, but it's better to be dry at a year and a half than in 99 years.
Yeah.
All right, let's
Can
talk
I jump
about.
in here? I just want to get a couple questions in before we
Absolutely.
start winding
hear it.
down
Oh, wait,
here.
hold on one second, Rachel, because the one question I want to ask, and then I'm done basically, is let's talk about the actual profitability of your movie.
Sure.
Do you feel you will break even or make a profit?
Yes, and I wish we would do it within a year or 2 years. I think it might end up being closer to 2 years to 3 years, but that's still better than projections. It's still better than all of the other films that we were kind of parallel with. But I want to see it sooner than that. So we may see it sooner than that.
Dude, first movie, make a profit, unheard of. Well done. All right, Rachel, let's hear these questions.
All right. We've got a quick question from Jack Danini, who says, did you guys do a minimum guarantee with the distributor?
We did not. And you should. You should make, that should be something that you leverage in.
Let's explain minimum guarantee.
So a minimum guarantee is where the distributor says, as soon as we pay back our expenses, we're going to disperse you X amount of money. And it can be anywhere from $1,000, it can be nothing with a lot of the smaller distributors, to millions with the bigger movies. And a lot of minimum guarantees, if you have the right cast, can be set up before you even shoot the movie, which is really what we're going to try to do with the next one, is to really just keep it with the MG to really ensure the return. But when you're fielding distribution offers, that's a big piece. And some MGs aren't worth it. They can work out more like loans, and they'll charge you interest on the money that they disperse to you, which you got to be careful of. There are deals where taking no MG is a better deal than taking a $100,000 MG, because the way that the interest works out. But no, we did not take an MG, and part of that is that I had a good enough relationship with the distributor that I felt that I could apply the pressure and make sure that, again, like with our sales agent, we would be insured against them just kind of saying, oh, you didn't get anything.
At what point are you actually going to get a disbursement? In other words, when will you see money, cash, so that you can start using it to either reimburse your investors or start a new project?
Right. So the VOD platforms take 90 days to report, and then the distributor takes 60 days to report after that.
Oh, okay. So within a quarter, you're going to start seeing some money.
I was hoping for December, and so I'm going to need to work with our acquisitions guy and make sure that he gives me a more accurate calendar than he gave me in the first place. Because I think they fuddled me on that a little bit.
Yeah, they're gonna. Rachel, more questions?
All right. Yes, we had a couple questions to end on, which I just want to revert all the way back to the beginning to see if you have any advice for anybody about getting that initial investment at the beginning. You said you had a budget around $100K. And we've got some people on here talking about crowdfunding, and if you'd be willing to just go all the way back to the beginning and let us know a bit about how you got the money in the first place. That would probably be a good spot to end
question.
So I think crowdfunding is a good place to start. No, it's not a good place to start. I think that's a good place to start talking about getting the money. I don't like crowdfunding. I have crowdfunded before, and I think the major drawback with crowdfunding is to make a really effective campaign that can get you anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000. You have to spend a lot of time on that campaign, and you really have to pour yourself into it. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and the issue is that if you took, and the reason I didn't want to pursue crowdfunding with this project was I knew if I took all that time and all that effort and I just started calling numbers in the phone book, I guess phone books aren't a thing anymore, but theoretically in the digital phone book, that I could go and find an investor who wanted to come in between $10,000 and $30,000 in a fraction of the time. And yes, it wouldn't be free money, but at the same time, no one is going to have to be mailing DVDs to Kickstarter supporters. No one's going to have to be signing posters. It's not a thing you're going to have to worry about when it comes time. And crowdfunding had its moment. And I think that it still is having its moment in a way. But when it comes to the budgets that we're talking about, especially ones where crowdfunding won't satisfy your whole budget, I think that it's a lot more effective to start with private investors, to start with. Go to production companies if you have connections there. And we did, but they, again, we're working with a little who's in it. And at that point, we hadn't done any casting, and it was like, well, the script's around, but no one trusts me to pick up a camera at this point, So it's like no one's in it right now.
I mean, the problem with crowdfunding to me is that I hear that 85% of the money comes from family and friends, and then they take a cut. Just go to them directly, and then you don't lose that cut.
Sure. Yeah. And crowdfunding is effective when you can get the crowdfunding to sort of go viral, be featured on, whether it's Kickstarter or GoFundMe, Seed and Spark. And I think that there are crowdfunding sites since the dawn of Kickstarter that have kind of done a better job in terms of getting the crowdfunding to work in hand with the larger source of investments. And then at the same time, in addition to that, the team that made Thunder Road with their next film is using a website I can't remember the name of, but I like that website a lot because the website will let you invest in the movie for as little as $100. So you're not doing it like, okay, I'll get a DVD, but it's like, $30 for a DVD. Like,
who wants a DVD?
I don't really want a behind the scenes reel for $10. You're going to to on Facebook
but
anyway.
The question was, where did you get your 100 plus?
It was from 8 or 9 different private investors.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, how'd you find these people?
Phone calls and friends of friends, people I didn't even know. A lot. I mean, it's funny that since I did the AMA on Reddit, which was how I got connected with Rachel and what brought me here, there have been a lot of people that reached out and said, "Hey, I'm interested in this. I don't have a lot, but I'm interested." And I think that was the key when it was going into this was who is excited about the movie industry, who is excited about sort of getting into it, but doesn't want to overextend their investment to a point where it would endanger their
Did
business.
any of this come from that letter that you wrote?
Which letter?
No, I'm kidding. All right, we're back to Rachel. Rachel?
Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Rob, for coming on the show. We've got a couple comments of people saying they really appreciate how open you've been about the money stuff in particular, which I know can be sticky, so we appreciate that. It's always good information. Big thank you to iCann, who provide the lighting for our show, to our sponsors, Canon, Rode Mics, and Kessler Crane. We will see you all again in a couple of weeks with a new show. Bye.